episode 4 of Queers and Qualms. This is your host, Sajara Eubanks, and I'm joined by...
What's up, y'all? This is Yaz. How you doing today?
All right, we're back with episode 4, and then 2 weeks ago, we left you guys off with our relationship episode, which, I mean, we got a lot of awesome feedback from. And, I mean, we're already rolling on to our next topic, which, I mean, what comes naturally after sex is... excuse me. After relationships... I'm ready to jump the gun already.
It's
sex. Let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's talk about you and me.
Let's talk about all good things. We can't have a queer podcast without talking about sex. So obviously, before we get too far into the details, we already let you guys know that we are an adult style podcast, but not that adult, but adult enough that maybe this episode might not be suitable for our young viewers.
Explicit. So we talking about sex. It's a fun subject. So if you want to listen about sex, we're going to talk about it.
Super broad and all kinds of fun stuff, but like one of the qualms of being a queer woman in society is the number one question. Well, not the number one, but the question that we get a lot of is how do lesbians have sex?
What happens during lesbian sex?
No, typically these come from non-lesbian askers, questioners.
Yeah, right. Mostly men. They're like, what do you mean? How does this work? And I'm like...
And so we're going to try to figure out how to explain that in 60 minutes or less. So we'll see. So what happens during lesbian sex? But I feel like before we should get into that, there's like kind of... I mean, look, we should be the Queers for Dummies podcast is what it is. I wish I had this podcast when I was young. But before we get into too much what happens in lesbian sex is like these different roles per se.
Yeah.
Top, bottom, switch.
Yeah.
What's up? Yeah,
just like in hetero sex, you have like potential roles that like people play when they're having sex. So we have top, we have bottom, we have switch. So we've talked a little bit about this in our previous podcast. So we have what's called top lesbians. So those are the ones who are kind of controlling the pace, I would say, of the sex. So those are the people.
Interesting.
I would say sometimes. But like typically tops are stereotypically they're supposed to be the more masculine presenting. They're the ones who want to have a little bit more power in the bedroom. They're the ones taking controlling the positions, I would say. And so we have what's called a top, who typically, if you're a top, you're paired with someone who's a bottom, who is someone who likes to receive a lot. That's not saying they don't give. It's our bottoms. No disrespect to our bottoms. They sometimes, lots of times.
No, I feel like top, bottom, switch is like really simplifying things, but it kind of does. You hear the term top, bottom, switch going along. So when I first kind of heard top, bottom, switch, which is relatively new, I'm thinking a top is like the giver of penetration, if I may.
Yeah.
And the bottom is receiving the penetration, and the switch is willing to go back and forth.
Yeah.
And I feel like what makes it a top bottom switch is the penetrative sense.
Yeah, in a lot of like same sex for sure relationships or sexual relationships, you'll see that it's the person who is receiving the penetration. Just kind of like in like hetero relationships, like the woman is not typically putting on a strap and pegging their man. That's not considered like dominant, or like, you know, I would say tops are more dominant. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I don't know. Like like majority of the guys who I have spoken to have said they're against. These are hetero men. They're not for the pegging wave. But I mean, look, you know me. I'm open to everything. Shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it once and twice if I like it. So
me
so
too.
top is more like a dominant, I would say, more dominant in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And then the bottom is the more submissive, receiving a lot of the penetration or pleasure or whatever that is within your sexual relationship. And then there's a switch, which is someone who is doing a little bit of both. And that could be both male and female. But if we're talking about lesbian relationships, it's obviously two people who are both giving and receiving in the bedroom. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like when two women get to making love.
Yeah, hey. So now let's talk about what's up. I mean, so for real, so here's the thing before we get into like what happens in lesbian sex. It's definitely not what happens in porn. If you've watched it in porn, for all of our baby gays, that's not what happens. All of our non-lesbian listeners who are wondering what's going on, it's not what happens. Like, but the thing is, like, there's so much that happens in lesbian sex. It's like, where do we begin? Like, when people ask me this question, like, so what do y'all do? It's like, all right, sit down.
Yeah.
This course will take, it's a full semester.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like it's got even more layers than, like, hetero sex, in my personal opinion. Because a lot of times, the way I feel like the purpose of that is get to the, you know, penetration, the sex, and then, you know, I feel like with same sex, specifically the lesbian sex, there's so many things that you could do to pleasure yourself and your partner that, like, there's so many different layers to it. I think there's a layer of intimacy and selflessness in lesbian sex that happens because you are pleasuring your partner. That is your sole, I feel like that is your sole purpose in my sexual experience, because, you know, you don't have that inserting penis and vagina, like, you don't have the, like, simulation both at the same time. So it's like a lot of it is selfless and you're giving to the pleasure of your partner. So I really like, I mean, as a gay, we can really get behind this. Our opinions might be a little biased here. A little bit, but
no, I mean,
I support.
It's true. Like, when you think of definition, heterosex is the penetration of the male anatomy,
and that's the normal sex we are exposed to in media in our everyday.
Yeah, and that's what we're getting to. Yeah. But when that male anatomy is removed, and you have two women, or the female's anatomy is removed, and there's two. I definitely can't tell you what happens with two guys in a bedroom. I could not be the first to tell you. But
we're not gonna be.
You have to move. You do have to, when there's two females in the bedroom, you do have to move. Conceptually, you have to move around the piece that's missing, and it I think what makes it so interesting between two women is that navigation around your body that doesn't require that, because that particular goal is no longer there to meet. There's other goals to meet. There's other explorations and things to find, and so it's super super fun, you guys. I think I'm an advocate.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting right into it, but there's a lot of sort of stereotypes around lesbian sex too, which is like straps are needed, and it's one of the first things I wanted to get into, which is like not necessarily. And to me, before we get into the definition, what happens during lesbian sex, I'm gonna go and say, like, the best lesbian sex happens without a strap.
That is a strong opinion.
Very strong.
That's one that I feel I support, but some people might think otherwise. But I think that that is definitely something that could 100% be true. So when I think about lesbian sex, I feel like I categorize it in like 4 or 5 different, like, categories, I would say. Like you said, there's strap. I think there's oral, which is head. There's penetrative. In our instance, that could also be strap. It could be fingers. It could be vibrators, whatever. And there's also scissoring. So that's what I think of the 4 elements of sex. And I think that could be expanded in 3 or 4 different subcategories.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
I feel like, let me go over these again. So you've got oral,
head,
penetrative.
Yep.
What was the other 2?
We've got scissoring. And we've got fingers, which is a subcategory within itself, which is penetration.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I'm gonna challenge you. I feel like that's 3. I feel like that's 3.
That might be. It might be. For some reason, I feel like.
Can you put toys?
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Do you mean so? Is your penetrative with a strap? Is that why it's different from
strap? fingers, I feel like they are different.
They are. They do.
And we're going to get
they are
into like body to body physical contact versus like having that toy. But yeah, that's kind of what I think about when we categorize sex. And yeah, what are the myths behind some lesbian sex? Like, I feel like when you see lesbian sex in porn, it's a lot of weird like scissoring videos, a lot of just like weird straight. I really like to say there's a lot of straight people making lesbian porn, and that's why I feel like it's a bad representation of what like actually happens in the bedroom. So yeah, I want to talk about what happens in the bedroom.
I mean, obviously all kinds of stuff. And I mean, when it comes to talking about what happens, I mean, it's so broad. Like, what do you mean what happens? I mean, what doesn't happen?
So how important is foreplay?
That's a whole other question.
Yeah, like,
no, that's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can also talk about what happens in sex, what happens in good sex too. But no, so I think foreplay is personally nearly required for a good session.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna enjoy that particular session for tonight if we don't have foreplay. That's like, what are you doing here? No, seriously, why'd I come?
Like, I feel like there are no quickies in lesbian sex, and that's another
no, not necessarily.
I mean, yeah, but like I feel like it's less. You take a little bit more time to like really like foreplay and get your partner aroused. I feel like, in the sense that, like, when I talk to heterosexual couples, right, I feel like a lot of times I hear women talk about, oh, like, men get morning wood and they turn over and it's like, you fucking. I feel like that happens sometimes during lesbian sex, but I feel like because it's two people trying to really please each other separately, that's my experience. I feel like you have to dig into this foreplay action.
We do, but I don't think that's necessarily exclusive. Like, just because you're a lesbian doesn't mean you're good for foreplay. I've talked to a lot of lesbians in research of this podcast. There are some studs out there not putting it down for us, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. There's some studs out there. I've talked to some femmes, and there's some studs out here that are giving very heteronormative sexual experiences. Very, very much.
That was never even something I thought could happen.
Very much skipping foreplay. Very much like just strapping down. Very much like not enjoying or savoring the intimacy of. I have like I asked around for this particular podcast. Like, sex is so broad. Like, we talked about, like, you know, again, like, I asked different women about positions and foreplay and what was a good sex experience with a woman, what was a bad sex experience for a woman, because it's almost like a double-edged sword. Like, I think the stereotype in society is that lesbian sex is amazing. Like, for real, you do hear about it. You hear, like, oh, lesbians have all this amazing sex. True. And it is, but there's some lesbians out there not having good sex. I've talked to them leading up to this podcast.
Yeah.
And so I think
that's sex in general, though. Like, there are people who are good at having good sex, and then there's like people who aren't. And I think anyone who's sexually active can say that they've had good and bad experiences with sex. I just feel like it happens less often when I talk to a lot of lesbian people. They run into bad sex a lot less.
A lot less. I definitely think it is way less often. I've definitely heard more complaints from straight and hetero women being like, all I do is lay here, look at the ceiling sometimes. I do get that feedback a lot, and more often than not, when I talk to other lesbians who have had sex with multiple women, at least, they're like, I'd never go back. This is amazing. But they have been with other women who have not given them pleasurable experiences. I've talked to femmes in research to this podcast who have had sex with studs who only use a strap. Yeah, you're making faces. This happens. This is why we're here. This is why we're talking about it.
Wait a second.
I feel like we should go into advice because
what is good sex? First of all, this is something. This is obviously our opinion on what good sex is, but I think we need to talk about what is the standard of like a sexual session. What are we trying to achieve here? What is the goal?
Okay, so for me, I think personally, if a person is striving for orgasm every time they have sex, they're doing it wrong. And yeah, because I think if your standard for good sex is whether or not you have an orgasm, it could skew your sexual experience. Because I've had lots of good sexual experiences. I've enjoyed myself quite a bit without necessarily orgasming.
Yes.
I've been with a woman, and it's not in my journal. I didn't write about it and marry her. But there were times where I've had sex and be like, okay, well, I didn't orgasm, but I still enjoyed that time.
Yeah, definitely.
I still enjoyed myself. And I think if I tried to be like, okay, well, I didn't have an orgasm, that wasn't good, there would be a lot of sessions I've had that was like, I would be missing out on.
That makes sense, yeah. You know it's not like orgasm equals good
orgasm
sex.
Or bust.
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot in sex in general, whether gay, straight, or in between, is that orgasm is the standard. I didn't orgasm, I didn't have a good session. And I think that particular stereotype is across all forms of sex.
Yeah.
Like a man, if he's not busting a nut, it's over. And if a woman is not creaming her nuts, it was subpar. And I think,
but it does help.
It does.
It does make it kind of.
It does
elevate things.
I just wanted to. I just think we should start normalizing having enjoyable sex. That doesn't necessarily mean. Yeah. Like, every time I have sex with my partner doesn't have to be the most mind-blowing experience I've had.
I think that's important, too, to note, though, like, when you're having sex with someone regularly, that it's, like, you know, every sex session is not going to be, like, freaking 10 out of 10 porno level.
Fireworks.
Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Especially people who are together for a very long time. Like, you know, I feel like within relationships, there comes times where sex is high on the priority list and it's amazing, and then it's low and then it's high depending on whatever's going on in your life. So like sex shouldn't be the basis of all relationships, but I feel like the more for me you reveal and can figure out the relationship between you and your partner, like physically, the better your sex is.
Yeah.
Like, the more you can really communicate with your partner what you like and want physically, that's when you're having the best sex. It's when you're open to physically reading someone's body, communicating the ways you want it and how you don't.
And that's hard to do, and I feel like it sounds old school, but I feel like if you can't talk openly about sex with the person you're having sex with, like, immediate, like, red flag. Reevaluate yourself. Forget your partner. Yeah. Like, and it's tough to do.
Yeah, and I'd say first and foremost, it's masturbation is pretty important when we're talking about, like, sex and what you find pleasurable. And basically, any masturbation, any type of, like, self-pleasure is going to make you more knowledgeable about how you have good sex and you share yourself intimately and physically with another person. Because if you know what you like, then you know what you're going to want to receive and what you want to give. And I think in some ways, lesbian relationships, we got a little bit of a cheat code because we ourselves have vaginas. Like, we know what our vaginas kind of the behaviors of ours, what we like, and how we can maybe, all vaginas are different, but how you navigate them, you know, you kind of know because you have your own. You're like, well, I could try this or this or this. So I think, you know, we're quite knowledgeable subconsciously in what it is we should be doing in the bedroom. So
just as a people, masturbation is super healthy. It's definitely, I feel like, especially, like, I know I'm not like super old, we're a couple of years apart, but I definitely have seen in my between my youth and as an adult, the acceptance of sort of the normalization of masturbation in itself.
Definitely.
Like, toys are everywhere now. Like, women are like, they should be. Yeah, like there's like they're like new like rabbits and bullets and rose petals and all kinds of different fun.
And I feel like the more you know yourself, the more you know how to explain what you need from your partner. Like, I feel like the best sexual experiences and the best way that you can have sex is by communicating exactly what you want, whether that's verbally or physically, but knowing what you want is step one, or how you like your sex to be. Like, if you know that you like penetration, then you have to kind of work with your partner in order to receive and give that. So communication is key to great sex.
Oh my God, please talk to your partner. And then, like, talking to them about safe sex too. Like, I think safe sex is something that in the lesbian community necessarily doesn't get a lot of attention because we don't use condoms as much, obviously. So communicating about not necessarily your history or your past, but communicating about your monogamy and your health should definitely be to the top of the list.
And what is also kind of myth is that lesbians can't pass sexually transmitted diseases.
Oh yeah, big myth, guys. Be safe out there.
Be safe. Yeah. Because, like, I mean, hooking up, do your thing. Like, no judgment at all passed by that, but make sure you're being safe when you're having sex for yourself and for your partners, because you want to live a long, luxurious, healthy life, and we want you to have good sex throughout that life. So, when I was at the doctor, when I was like, I don't know, 14, 15, maybe like 16, 17. They're like, are you sexually active? And, this is like one of the first times I've been to the doctor by myself, and like my mom's not sitting in the room, and I'm saying, oh, should I tell this doctor like the truth about my life? Should I let them in? Mind you, I'm like 17, maybe 16 years old. All right, cool. I'm like, yeah, I'm sexually active. They're like, okay, so obviously the first question, like, are you using protection? And me, as the baby gay that I am, I'm like, protection? What's that? Like, I had no idea. And I was like, no, I'm not using protection. I'm like, primarily sleeping with women. And she's like, oh, you can do this thing that's called a dental dam.
Oh my God.
My mind was fucking blown. I was like, there's no way that this is real. Yeah. So I Google what the fuck a dental dam is. Of course, because I'm 16 years old. I don't know what a dental dam is. And it's like, and she was like, if you don't have a dental dam, you can use plastic wrap.
Stop. She didn't tell you this at the doctor's office.
My pediatrician told me that I could take plastic wrap, put it on a vagina, and give oral sexual relations to a woman. I said,
pre-COVID,
I might as well just be a virgin. Like,
I'm not doing that.
But please, this is her way of warning me that you should have safe sex and figure out ways that are safe for you and your partner to explore sex.
I feel like I might not be the best to give this advice because, like, dental dams and plastic wrap is like, you gotta be kidding me. But I wonder if there's gotta be safer ways for lesbians to have sex. But what is there other than, like, I was always just careful about choosing my partner, praying really hard, and being communicative.
Praying really hard.
Like, because it is hard. Like, I've never used plastic or dental dam. And the first time I looked at, I was given that option as well in a 6th grade health class. Like, and my 6th grade health teacher didn't care about gay or straight. She was like, before you put your face in anybody's vagina, put this plastic square up. And I was like, oh my God. I left that 6th grade health class. I didn't want to have sex with anybody. I was like, I'll keep to myself.
Right.
But I mean, I always wondered that when I was a young lesbian, like, so how do we protect ourselves? Because that was a big deal in the, like, that's a big deal in condoms, perfect.
And, like, luckily for same sex, you don't have to worry about, like, people push condoms for, like, child.
Yeah.
So people don't want to have kids that use condoms, right? So luckily for us,
STDs,
we don't have STDs, but
look, I'm making sure. No, I'm checking myself, right? Like those. No, STDs, too, right?
yeah, but that's like kind of like they're like babies first, STD second. Like, luckily for us as same sex, we don't have that particular thing to worry about, but definitely protecting ourselves from STIs is definitely something that we should be thinking about when having sex. I think the best way to do it is just getting tested regularly. And if somebody comes to you and they want to have sex with you and they are like, well, I think we should get tested, I think that is something people should jump on the opportunity to do in general. Is just get tested often and stop this, like, weird, if someone asks you to get tested, people are always like, what? Why do I need to get tested? Like, maybe you need to get tested. Like, no, like, you should be getting tested regularly, and don't be offended if somebody asks you to, or says they may have contact with something and they're like, you should get tested. You should absolutely do that. So like, getting tested as regularly as possible, I think, and like being open and honest with your partners about your sexual past. There's no, like, benefit in lying about who you've been with in the past. It only kind of puts you and your partners in danger. So
that's, right, it really don't matter who or how many, just as long as you open about your health about it. Seriously.
People are so worried about body count, number, whatever, like,
that doesn't matter. Are you safe? Getting tested regularly is definitely a big thing. I can admittedly, for a while, like, I wasn't tested regularly, mostly because I was, like, young and stupid and not accessible. But I remember the first girl who was like, oh, you have to be tested before I sleep with you. I remember being like, screw me. I definitely was like, young SARS, like, I am an athlete. And she was like, I don't care. And I was like, okay. Valid. You know, and I was like, all right, am I learning something here? Okay.
Yeah. So
it was good. Definitely protect yourself out there. It's definitely harder as a lesbian, I feel like, to find reliable sources of safe sex information and safe sex.
I agree. I wish I knew more.
I know. I wish we could tell you guys more.
Yeah. Honestly. Because I was like, that's the best thing I got. Dental dam. Condoms, like, I mean, if you're using straps, like, it's
they do make finger condoms now.
Do they? I feel like I've heard of that, but I've never seen it in real life actually be a thing.
I don't know if it's just I don't know if it's finger condoms or, like, you know, they have finger sleeves for medical use, and someone was like, this is good for us, too.
How necessary is a finger condom, though? Like, I feel like if you worried about it, you just wash your hands and then.
Can you pass it? Oh my God, we're like giving out bad shit. I'm like, well, can you pass an STD from that?
Maybe, guys. Look, we're not medical professionals here. We're asking the same questions that everybody else was thinking and just trying to talk about it. So
we have no idea. We're like, protect yourself. How? Not sure, but definitely do it.
I'm going to Google some shit, and we're going to make sure to stay tuned on the socials where we post.
All right, we got to get back to safe sex.
Safe sex. Protect yourself. Have good sex. Do it with a condom.
That is funny. All right. Staying on topic, we've got a few, on our broad topic of lesbian sex today, we've got a few other things to touch on, too, which is... We got a few taboos and fetishes. Do you want to do that one next? Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. So,
and preferences. I like to say preferences.
Instead of taboos or fetishes. That's fair. Taboo does have a very negative connotation to it.
Yeah, because we definitely want to talk about some of this stuff. Is really fun. So
a couple of things. Now this one, no. So I'm gonna start with the most controversial one for myself. How about that? I'll tell. But a lot of, so I got a few. I've been seeing this one on TikTok, and we got this one in our DMs a little bit. Sexual on your cycle, normalizing such. Why is it such a big deal?
Why is it gross? Such a big deal? Especially
is it gross or not?
As like women in relationships with other women, like we all have a period. It's a natural thing that happens all the time, and you're telling me I have to stop having sex for 3 to 7 days over a little bit of mess? That don't make sense to me. I don't support.
Over a little bit of mess.
I don't support.
I'm so neurotic and clean. Actually, yes. Yes, actually, I am not washing the sheets every time.
Okay, but there's other places to have sex. You know, you don't always have to have sex on your very white sheets when you're on your period, which I could see how that could be a thing that is uncomfortable and inconvenient. But, you know, you could always try it in the shower or
that's cleaner.
Else.
That's cleaner.
Yeah.
That's cleaner. It's funny, when you said white sheets, I thought about, damn, we should have done that. And I just thought about it just now. I gotta look it up, maybe another episode. But there's like a quiz, there's like a test online which is your how kinky are you?
Oh.
Like how freaky are you?
How freaky are you?
Something like that. And so it's funny, I took it and I was like, vanilla.
Not vanilla.
Vanilla.
Oh,
it was
God,
like, you are a missionary. Stop. And I was like, listen, I like keeping my vanilla white sheets clean. Showers is about as wild.
Look, sex can be as wild as you want it, and it can be as straight to the point, straightforward as you want it. That's the beauty about sex. You can kind of mold it to your partner. You can mold it to your likes and your fantasies. Yeah. And so, back.
Yeah, so sex on your cycle, go for it, ladies.
I think you should try it, at the very least. I feel like when you're on your cycle, is that not the time where you're kind of the most, like, for lack of other words, like, horny?
I was gonna say horny. I'm more PMS horny. I'm more pre and post. So when I'm on my cycle, like, personally, like, my boobs are swollen and I feel fat and I'm not feeling sexy anyway. I think it's less to me about the taboo of it than like I just feel gross. Yeah. Which could be an old stereotype.
No, anyway. Like I think it depends on your body.
Yeah, like I'm just like,
if you are like don't touch me at all, that's very valid because there's days where like I'm on my cycle and I'm like, please don't even look at me. We gonna have a problem. And then there's days where I'm like, okay, like there are a lot of hormones going on through my body right now, and I feel like they need somewhere to go. So yeah, there's definitely those days. I feel you though. I feel you.
All right, don't let nobody tell you that's gross, girl. Go for it.
Don't let nobody tell you. And that's
normalize that shit.
That's with anything during sex. Well, most things.
Anything that's voluntary for both or all parties involved.
Most importantly,
anything that's a yes,
consented by everyone involved.
And if you guys are into something more kinky, get you a safe word, and then it's all good to go. I'm vanilla, but I support more spicy flavored beings.
Yeah. I'm not sure I took this specific test, but I don't think I would come out vanilla personally. But yeah,
for sure.
So is there this myth? What's this myth about orgasms being like? Well, we talked a little bit about it before at the beginning of the episode, how like not all sex has to be measured by orgasm or not orgasm. But I feel like there's so many like tests per se, or like statistics, might I add, about women in hetero relationships or even lesbian relationships who feel as though their sexual experiences are not going well due to lack of orgasms. What could that be about?
Okay. So my personal experience, one, I don't think you should expect to have an orgasm every time you have sex.
That might be an unrealistic expectation.
Right. One. And two, I think there's different levels of orgasm.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
You can have like a little baby orgasm. You can have like a mind-blowing orgasm. You have a medium orgasm. You have an orgasm where you actually like come and squirt.
Yeah.
There's like vaginal orgasms. There's clitoral orgasms. There's G-spot orgasms.
Yeah.
There's like all kinds of different stuff like that. And so like, that was one of the first things, like, when I was kind of growing up and figuring myself out and having sex and trying to find a healthy standard, I kind of came up in that stage where I was like, okay, well, I haven't had an orgasm. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm missing out.
Yeah.
Like, I was having FOMO. I was like, something's wrong with me. I'm broken.
Stop.
Like, none of the sex I'm having is as amazing as everyone is saying it is. But once I got to that wave and I started catching my stride, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
These are amazing. Mm-hmm. It's like the first time I had one, I was like, oh, this is insane. And then, of course, I would love to have an orgasm probably every morning to start the day. Some people do. I usually don't have time.
Yeah, it depends on what time you need to be up.
No. But I think the expectation of every time we have sex, it has to be an orgasm, I think is just way out of control. I think the goal... for me, my goal when I have sex, I can't tell what anyone else's goal is to enjoy myself and please my partner. And I think if I can check those two boxes, one of the unrealistic expectations I found myself having too is, even if I didn't orgasm, I had to get my partner to orgasm.
Yeah.
Oh my God, definitely. The pressure I put myself in the 20s.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, she didn't come, she's leaving me.
She's never gonna have sex with me again. It's just trash.
I didn't send her to the moon and back. She's never coming back.
And I think that's definitely a pressure that top or dominant people have in the bedroom, is that, if your partner doesn't come, or if you feel like, that was unsuccessful sexual experience. And a lot of times that's not the case. Like you said, you can have a very amazing, pleasurable experience without having an orgasm. And I think that's very notable. And, yeah. And it's awesome to come. That's cool and everything. But it's not 100% necessary, especially when figuring out sex with your partner or whoever it is you're having sex with. Like, I think be patient, and it will happen if you keep working at it. Practice makes progress, I think. So, yeah. But
and they have sex therapy now. I don't take it. I don't have good health insurance. But
they do.
Probably
They
helps.
also have vibrators and self-pleasure and a lot of stuff. Like, what is this is something that I feel like is sometimes taboo during sex, is like masturbate, self-pleasure during sex. I don't see an issue in it, but I know a lot of people, and I think some of it may come from like pride and really, really wanting to please your partner. But sometimes you need a little extra kick, you need a little extra boost, and that's what they make toys for. And experiment with your partner and see if those things might help you guys reach your goal of ultimate climax.
I think that's fun too. I definitely again, talking to some different women and everything over the research for this podcast and different conversations, I've had someone tell me they were masturbating after sex and their partner was upset. Because, seriously. Upset legit. And so I feel like, all right, y'all. This could probably be happening to someone else. Like, yeah. If your partner feels like they need to masturbate, give them that. I feel like, to me, that was hot. I was like, who gets mad about that?
Yeah, I would be like, hey, let me watch or some shit.
So if you find yourself upset that your partner's masturbating, it's time to do some soul searching. Kind of time for you to dig into yourself. Yeah. And if you're a partner and you're over there minding your business, getting your rocks off, and your girlfriend's mad, time for you to reevaluate your girlfriend. I think. Mind my business.
Yeah, but
I woke up one time, my girl was masturbating. I was like, ooh, hey, sorry, may I?
If I can join, that's one thing. If you're don't touch me, maybe there's something that has to be
there could be something, there could be something
within the relationship. But I think, generally, you should be on board with your partner's pleasure. And if they can, if they can do it, if they want to do it themselves, I'm happy to be an audience member.
On board. Go for it. Cheer him along.
Super on
Woo!
board. Yeah.
Get him a water after. How was that? Ready to do me next?
My turn, right?
Now that you're warmed up, I'm ready to go.
Yo,
that's a good one.
definitely.
All right, have we answered this one yet?
I think we did. I think it's time for Qualm of the Week.
Week. Are we on there already?
I think so.
Let's get it.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about this while introing this episode about lesbian porn. And just like specifically the sexualization of lesbianism and bisexualism and like kind of lesbian culture. For some reason, I feel like whenever you see like typical lesbian media or like when people think about lesbianism and lesbian sex, it's always like when you say you're lesbian, they're always like, well, kiss.
Well,
kiss a girl. Well, show me some titties. Well, what happens here? Like, it's always kind of a question or like
so
a proof, right? Always kind of like, oh, you have to prove that you're sexually attracted to other women, whereas like you can be a lesbian and sex has nothing to do with your identity. So I feel like, especially when you talk about bisexuals, which there's a lot of controversy surrounding the subject of bisexuals, but I feel like a lot of times you see bisexual people being sexualized based on, so you like both men and women, so you must be attracted to everyone. You must be ready to go for everyone, right? And I feel like,
yeah. And
you have, sometimes you're friends with straight women and they're like, oh, they make offhand comments like, oh, well, it's fine as long as you're not trying to hit on me. Like being lesbian means you like every woman in the world.
I get that a lot.
Yeah. It's
when I
like,
come out the straight women, they're like, well, do you like her?
Do you like her? Right, do you like me?
Do you like her?
Like,
I'm
no.
like, bruh, I have a type, and you're not it.
Exactly. And so kind of just that kind of everything having to prove your sexuality within your identity is also kind of difficult to do, I feel like. And lesbianism within porn is so over sexualized that when you say that you're lesbian, people automatically think that you're like upside down, like scissoring bitches hanging from the ceiling like they do in porn. And I feel
it's a really aggressive figure.
Yes.
Must be really aggressive clitoris stimulation.
And it's so like disturbing, I feel like, to watch. I feel like, do you guys as lesbians, please tell me, my lesbian listeners, even watch porn anymore? Because I feel like
I don't.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that that's a regular thing in my like sexual experience.
Rather watch reruns of the L Word.
I'd rather read like sexual erotica than watch fucking porn.
I'd rather, like, honestly, name something else. Look at Janet Jackson posters. That would probably do better for me.
Yeah.
Than
like
actual porn.
Kehlani videos, music videos. Like I can do better with my imagination.
Yeah.
I feel like porn is more distracting than my imagination could ever be.
I could probably
in the sense that
for sure your imagination.
But you know the craziest thing is straight guys love fucking lesbian porn.
What is that
They
about?
love that shit because it's made by straight people.
But I just know, what is that about? Like, what is it about straight men wanting to watch two women anyway?
It's two girls. Like, straight men who love women are like, two girls kissing? It's their favorite thing.
Double the pleasure, double the fun.
Like,
are they a double mint commercial?
If I didn't know really what lesbian sex, if I didn't experience it in the bedroom and really know what it like looked like and felt like, I would probably love fucking lesbian porn. You turn that shit on, you see two hot bitches making out, and they got fat titties and everything, and it's amazing, right? But like when you have experience as a lesbian, you're like, that's not at all what happens during lesbian sex. So people like my virgins or less experienced people out there, just know if you're watching lesbian porn and you're thinking that lesbian sex is like that, it is not.
It's probably not what's gonna happen.
Not. It's
so
not.
kind
it's
of
a fantasy.
Kind of a byproduct. So lesbian porn sucks, and it's like by men for men.
Yeah.
So what like that got me to thinking about what about not necessarily porn, but the sexualization of bisexuality in music video.
Yes.
In music, like we talk about all the time. I mean,
music.
We're Megan Thee Stallion fans here.
Yeah.
And I love Cardi B. Like I'm looking at the WAP music video, or what was it? The Press music video. Cardi B opens up making out with a woman.
Press.
And I'm so torn between like, oh, this is hot because I love Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion,
and
I
like, love women kissing.
Are you misrepresenting us?
Likely, yes.
But more likely, start the video over again. Let me watch again for research.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm more affronted by lesbian porn than I am by music videos, and I wonder if I'm holding a double standard.
Yeah, but how does that affect actual lesbian and bisexual people's experiences when they're like moving towards these sexual relationships, or they're having their own experiences and they have expectations based on these media references, or you know, this over sexualization of lesbian culture? Like, how does that negatively affect lesbians? I think it doesn't positively affect us.
No.
And in the
or your own self-image.
Yeah, in the sense that there's, I feel like now, even myself, there's always a sense of having to prove that you are the sexuality that you say. Like, despite, you could be as mask presenting as you want, but I feel like there's always some kind of like, maybe one of the reasons why we present so masculine, or one of the reasons why we feel is a proof of how we feel about our sexuality, or how we feel like we need to present to be socially accepted, or in a sense. That's just like a take on it, but it could definitely be putting some pressure and creating some stereotypes or social norms for the lesbian culture, I think, and especially bisexual. For all
sex. It's got to play a factor in straight heterosex too. So if I was a straight woman and my boyfriend watched porn, I'd be like, don't even try it.
Really?
I mean, just think about it. Do you think
all men watch porn?
All men watch porn, but don't you think, like, I'm not straight, but I mean, straight women have to be dealing with their man watching some porn and thinking that they're supposed to be some kind of fucking porn star. It has to be.
Yeah, so the porn industry in general,
I think it's sort of skewing
a very
the sexual experience.
Elevated.
Because if it's fucking up, because I'm thinking about it like, okay, because it's ruining what people, a hetero person would think lesbian sex is really like.
Right.
Like, that's not even close, honestly.
Not even.
So, I mean, I'm thinking if they're that far off on lesbian sex, they've got to be pretty far off on hetero. I mean, maybe. I didn't talk to a lot of hetero women in research for this, but it made me think about it. Like, I mean, it's got to be ruining at some level the hetero sex experience as well.
Yeah, just like the porn industry, the kind of over exaggeration of sex in general definitely creates some sort of pressure in sex to do certain things that
to bounce on it and spin for 8 hours in a row while you're taking it from both ends by two guys wearing a tool belt. Not so.
It's impossible.
I've watched porn
the drama.
And really sat there like interested, not even turned on. While like, wow, this is
the plot line.
This is the plot line. This is the plot line.
The plot line.
We gotta I wish HBO brought that show back. I remember. Are you old enough to watch Real Sex on HBO?
No.
They used to have a show, Real Sex, on HBO, and I remember there being an episode about porn directors. And there was this one lady who was trying to make good lesbian porn. It was like an episode. And this person was trying to make like porn with a plot line. She was like,
damn.
But it was way too long ago for me to remember any more details than that. That's about it. That's about it for my experience. Like, does anyone else remember that? Is anyone else old enough to remember?
HBO should pick that back up.
They should.
How to make good porn videos. For real.
That's funny.
Okay, last question.
Okay.
Would you, this is just a personal preference question. Would you, like, if you and your partner were together or whatever, would you go to, like, some sort of swinger house situation where a swinger is basically couples who have sex with other couples? Like a swinger party where everybody in the party was having sex.
Would I?
Yeah.
No. Not even close.
Why?
First of all, we talked about it earlier. I am vanilla based on my kinky test.
But even if they're just having sex with each other and not other people, which is unrealistic in a sex house.
Wait, so I'm a sex house, right? Okay, I've never been in a sex house, so I don't know what the realistic expectations would be. No, I'm gonna say no. I feel like, okay, I would have a threesome with my partner, but I don't know if I'd swing.
Yeah. Swingers are real.
Like, we're swapping. Like, I'm gonna take your girl, you take mine, like, for the night.
We're swing all directions.
No, I'm okay. I want to see. I don't mind. I feel like I would have a threesome with my partner because, like, I'm confident enough that me and her could go home and, like, talk about it later. So when she did that, I was like, ooh.
All right. So then I was like, maybe we could work that into our regular schedule. Okay. All right. Okay. Or I'd be like,
her teeth, right? I feel like I would more likely to make fun of it.
That's pretty funny.
I would do that, but I couldn't just send my partner off on her own. And then we're like, then how do you talk about it? What if you swing?
What happened?
What if you swing and your partner has a good session and you don't? Just thinking of that right now. It's out of my head. Wow. Then you guys go home that night and she's like, wow, I had my back blown out. It was amazing. How was yours? And I'm like, it was all right.
Love you, babe. Good night.
I'm like, I hope you sleep well. I'll have to masturbate tonight.
Dang.
Imagine.
I'd love to hear you guys.
You got any swingers listening?
Any swingers? Please drop a comment. Send us an email. Send us questions. Send us your experience swinging and maybe some advice on how to do it successfully. Look, I am not vanilla, but we've got a large spectrum of sexual experiences that are all validated. Yeah. So thanks guys. That's all we have about sex.
Nice, guys. I mean, that's it for this week.
Yeah.
I mean, feel free. Sex is such a broad topic.
This is the beginner episode.
We just want to break the ice on it. But let's get some more topics. We were really enjoying all the feedback we get. We get a lot of DMs, a lot of but we want to start answering a few more questions live. So make sure you guys send like anonymous questions, qualms, anything about sex, relationships, or any other queer experiences. Let us know because we'd love to answer these. And we're trying to explore avenues of the queer experience that we might not know. Yeah. And so your feedback
is
important to us.
Yeah, very important. Thanks, guys. We'll tune in 2 weeks, and we'll see y'all next time. Appreciate it.
Peace.
This episode is brought to you by Hot Heat Sneakers, a Maryland DMV black-owned sneaker sales shop. Got the best Jordans, Yeezys, any hot heat that you need. You can follow them on Instagram at Hot Heat Sneakers.
And we are also sponsored this week by Dirty Jersey Smoke Shop. All your best cannabis needs, anything from pipes, tobacco, CBD, medical, accessories, everything you need at Dirty Jersey locations throughout New Jersey. Follow them at Dirty Jersey, that's JERZ, Dirty Jersey at Instagram and dirtyjersey.com.
And our music, this episode and every episode, is brought to you by Chibuguzo, a local Maryland, Prince George's County alternative rock and R&B group. You can follow them at Chibuguzo301 on all platforms. That's at CHIBUGUZO301. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate the follows.
And don't forget to email us at queersandqualms@gmail.com. DM us for your qualms, quips, and queers. Have a great week, guys.
I feel the same way as the same way he felt about it. I don't have a certain religion or religious faith, you know, to say I belong to this faith or this church or so forth, you know. But I know that I am a spiritual being. I can say that today. I am a spiritual being. John was my direction. I feel like that. This is the way that I had to go in life because I accept the music from him. And I accept the closeness that it's just impossible to be that close with it. What kind of effect has it had on your life since then? I think that it gave me freedom. I think it gave me my true independence, that no matter where I go in the world or whatever I do or whatever my involvement, I'm free.